Hi, I'm Jane Stevens, and I'm thrilled to be worshiping with you this morning and to have a few minutes to give you an update about the babies in Kenya who you all have loved well over the last 14 years, I think, um, through the Imani Children's Foundation. I can remember when I first met with your missions committee, I told them about the babies who are precious. I mean, they're irresistibly precious. New Life Home over since 2000 has taken in 2,200 abandoned infants very young, often premature and low birth weight, and many of them in the early days were HIV positive. And they have loved them and nourished them and given them a new name and watched them be adopted by a Kenyan family. So, what happens with those babies is it's just lovely, and who wouldn't want to support those babies? But when I talked to your committee, they wanted to know about the children who didn't get adopted, and thanks to God, virtually all of the children in at New Life Home who don't have special needs have been adopted. It takes hard work and it takes uh, ongoing miracles, but um, after 2,200 children, they are all adopted except those who are living with HIV or have special needs. So I told the committee about the special needs kids, and of course, your church. They said, "Oh, we want to support the special needs kids." And my little brain immediately started thinking, this is going to be hard because those kids are not, they're lovely to be with. And now that I know them, I think they're the most beautiful children in the world. But it's hard to get a good picture of them. It's hard to, their life is pretty, their life, they live their life in tiny, tiny movements. After I've been knowing them for 10 years, a hotel invited them to the swimming pool and they got to go swimming. And that was that was as big as Disneyland, as the World's Fair, as anything to them to be able to feel water on their body. So they don't have huge moments and they aren't moving toward being the president of Kenya, but that's who you all chose, and that thrilled me. Um, but right now, I want to give you an update about the babies this summer. As you know, the world has been rocked by COVID, and Kenya's no different. We were in Kenya in February and got to visit all the homes and got to visit the four special needs kids that you all have supported for all these years. But even as we were leaving, I remember seeing in the newspaper the story of this virus in China. And Kenya, who has been viscerated by viruses throughout its history, by not only the viruses and the death and the many, many children left behind. Right now, the average age in Kenya is 14. So way more children than adults, and they are quick to pick up on a virus or a catastrophe coming. So the president moved quickly and put a lockdown on travel between cities and a curfew that was very bordering on brutal in terms of its enforcement by the police. And nobody went anywhere. New Life Home was full up, and they didn't anticipate taking in any new children till COVID was over. But the miracle of the COVID season in Kenya was that families continued to adopt, even though they couldn't go to another city, they couldn't stay up past 7. They were fearful about getting food and getting things they needed. Still, they wanted to adopt. Like, I think America discovered the same thing during COVID. It's in COVID that you most need family. So as these children got adopted, the families would often have to hire guards to take them. There's great stigma in Kenya about disease. And in fact, if you are a nurse in Kenya today and you work at a hospital where they treat COVID patients, you don't tell anybody because you don't tell anybody because you could be shunned. Your family could be harassed, and when you try to go home, your home would be barricaded. So people fear disease, and they don't mind letting people know what they can do and what they can't do in terms of disease. So New Life Home, the leadership felt like it was really important to protect the caregivers, and of course to protect the other babies from babies coming in who might have COVID. So as they saw these beds opening up, they put their heads together to find a plan so that they could do what their mission is. They could take in abandoned babies, and certainly there were more abandoned babies at this point than in any time I can remember, short of the original HIV crisis. So they came upon a plan, and they got volunteers from each home, and they formed a cohort of staff who volunteered, and those staffs would each be assigned a new infant. And once there were 4 or 5 in the cohort, they would put them in an isolation in an off-site place, and they would have a Jiko, a thing to cook on, and a bag of frozen food and water, and one baby per staff member, and formula. And they were committed to being there for 14 days, no matter what happened. I mean, the babies, many of them turned out to be sick, of course, and they had to care for them night and day by themselves, while missing their own world and their own kids. But they did it, and after 14 days, they brought them out, and they tested all the aunties and all the babies, and they were all negative. Their plan was that if they were positive, they were going to have to do another 14 days in isolation. I just am amazed. I'm amazed by the sacrificial love of those women, that they would volunteer in this time of crisis and fear to be isolated for 28 days with a child they don't know, and a child they don't know if they can take care of, if they can manage. But it worked, and all of the homes began the program, and they now have taken in 12 different cohorts. They've taken in almost 40 children. And I think back to the beginning of this summer when my best recommendation, in fact, my urgent recommendation to New Life Home was to sit tight, to take no risks, not to even think about taking in any new children. And yet they did. They are courageous. As Maya Angelou says, courage is the most important virtue, because without it, you can't do any of the others. And these women had courage. So that's one of the things that your funding has gone to. I don't know if you all remember, but your mission committee has continued to care for our 4 special needs kids. But last fall, Clyde and some other volunteers came up with the idea of having a party for the babies. And they had a gathering, and I don't know what, they obviously stayed up late and sold a lot of jewelry. And in the end, then people at the party had parties and then told people. I mean, this little party ended up raising between $3,000 and $4,000. Actually, it was more, but several of those are private donors. So these babies, I'll show you a picture of the 3 babies that we brought in, last brought in when we were there. So these 3 babies, they're all 1 day old, and they were at Kenyatta Hospital our last day of our trip. So they now are 9 months. Many of them are already spoken for. Their parents are already beginning the paperwork for them, and they will have long and lovely and loving lives. And had we not had those funds, they would surely not be alive now. I have 2 other pictures. This is a picture of them sealing the team into the ark. 1 baby per staff member. That's what they call it, sealing them into the ark. And then a picture of them. Kenya can celebrate like nobody else. And here's a picture of them celebrating coming back out. This was a cohort of 6. So thank you so much. COVID has, I think, demanded so much of all of us, but I wanted you to know how much it has demanded of your partners in Kenya and how much your support has made the lives of 40 children possible this summer. Thank you.